Let's do it on three. 1, 2, 3.
One half a step too late or too early, you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. On this team, we fight for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know that's the difference between winning and losing.
Mean in the green. It's right here for you.
That's football, guys.
Go Mean Green.
Welcome to the GoMeanGreen.com Barbershop Podcast, dedicated to students, alumni, and fans that truly bleed green.
Don't give them room to breathe.
Follow us on Twitter at GoMeanGreen and visit our website, GoMeanGreen.com.
Love that.
What's up, North Texas and Go Mean Green fans? I am joined by a special guest today as we start our North Texas season preview, going game by game. No better way to start than the opening opponent. We're a little over a month away till the Pac-12 Cal Bears come to town, and no better person to talk about it than Jim McGill. He's been covering the Cal football, basketball, and recruiting since 2004. Jim, how are you, sir?
Great. How are you, JD?
Good. We were just talking before about you said it was 75 and sunny where you're at in California, and I think it's
no humidity, no such thing here.
Yeah. I've got a little envy over here because I'm 95% sure I'm already broke a sweat and the interview just started. So it's warm here, and like I said, we're about a month away. Y'all will be down here in Experience. But like I said, thank you for jumping on and talking about the game with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Justin Wilcox is coming into his 7th season as Cal head football coach. Last year was the 3rd straight losing record, and he's got an overall record of 30-36. Would you say this is Justin Wilcox's make or break year as head football coach of California?
I would normally say yes, but his contract is guaranteed to 2028 or 2029. So even with a rough year, it would be very hard to make a change because they'd have to pay 100% of the contract value. If that weren't the case, it could be a make or break year because 3 straight losing seasons after going to their last bowl game in 2019 is not sitting well with Cal fans at all. So they've got a lot to prove this year.
We mentioned the 4-8 record last year. A big part of that was the struggles on offense. But this is not the same Cal team that was on the field last year. Coach Wilcox led a kind of a remodel of sorts and dipped into the North Texas coaching pool, bringing in a new offensive line coach, former North Texas OC Mike Bloesch, and also went to Texas and got former Texas State head coach Spavital. So what do you expect this new Cal offense to look like come September?
The offense should look night and day different. It was very methodical and old school under former offensive coordinator Phil Musgrave. They'd have flashes of success against the right defensive personnel, but most of the time they just really struggled to move the ball. They only averaged, I believe, 24 points a game, and you just can't win games in the Pac-12 with 24 points a game. With Spavital, he emphasizes putting guys in space and finding the seams in the defense where they have the ability to break off routes, and quarterbacks and receivers sort of play a little bit of a sandlot style of offense where it's just, hey, get open, find some green grass. That opens up the running game quite a bit, which helps a lot for a talent like Jade Knott, who often faced stacked boxes last year. And I think it's going to be pretty hard for defenses to stack the box against Cal this year. If they do, I really think the passing game can make them pay. And especially when you've got a quarterback like Sam Jackson, who may be the fastest quarterback in the country. So, yeah, I think we'll see a lot different offense this year. Cal fans are hoping to see the offense average at least 30 points a game, and that should be enough to get them back to a bowl game if that actually happens, because they should have a solid defense to be paired with the new offense.
So that was going to answer that. Kind of answers my next question. The transfer Sam Jackson from TCU. Do you predict he'll be the quarterback taking over for Jack Plummer?
He's essentially the number one guy. There really hasn't been a competition. There's Fernando Mendoza, who's a redshirt freshman, who's still, getting broken in. He seems to be competent, but I don't think he's really challenging for the starting spot at this point. And then they brought in North Carolina State quarterback transfer Ben Finley, and I don't think a guy coming in this summer who's started a few games is going to really push Jackson unless something happens this fall where he really falls off, or somebody really steps up to pose a challenge. That would be a surprise, honestly.
So Justin Wilcox, known as a defensive coach, the defense, just from going through the numbers, looks like they kind of struggled last year. What are some key names that they've kind of added? I know they went to the transfer portal, added a couple defensive backs, linebackers. What are some names that stood out to you that North Texas fans should be aware of going into to September?
Well, there were some dynamics involved last year that caused the defense to drop off and have to play a different style than defensive coordinator Peter Sermon generally favors. It was a pretty passive bend but not break defense because they had 4 starting or key backup defensive linemen out, so they didn't have much pressure last year. So one of the big changes starts with who they're getting back, and Brett Johnson is the biggest return. That guy is absolutely a beast. He'll pick up big offensive linemen and suplex them. And where do you ever see that? He's back after an ACL injury last year. And then up the middle, Big Stan McKenzie. He's a 320-pound nose guard that unfortunately his father passed away last year, and it really had a big impact on him and the family. So he took a year off, and he's back. So getting pressure on the defensive line will help a lot. They picked up a couple of key portal transfer guys that were behind some stacked defenses on good programs. David Reese is a portal transfer from Florida who really tore it up in spring ball. And Sergio Allen is a middle linebacker transfer from Clemson, and he looked really solid too. Another new face that fans haven't seen is redshirt sophomore middle linebacker Caleb Elarms-Orr. He's going to fight presumably with Sergio Allen for the starting spot opposite last year's portal transfer, Jackson Sturman. And then in the defensive backfield, they're more loaded than I've ever seen before. They brought in 4 key transfers. I'd say that the 2 top transfers they brought in were Noel Williams from UNLV and Patrick McMorris from San Diego State. McMorris was a first-team all-conference player for the last couple of years, and he's a real talent at safety. And they really project Williams to be an NFL guy when he's draft eligible or when he applies for the draft. He just, in the spring, he covered guys like glue, and he just brings this tough starter mentality to the lineup. They had some good young guys last year too that are expected to continue to develop, but it looks like those guys will be rotational guys now. So they're really 2 deep at every position and 3 deep at a couple too. The defense should look quite a bit different this year. I think they'll be a lot more aggressive because they have all 3 areas covered pretty well. So they'll be able to blitz more and play more press coverage and do things they really couldn't do last year.
With us being right at a month away from Cal traveling to the new DATCU Stadium, where it's supposed to be about 125 degrees that day, Cal's coming in currently as 9-point favorites. Jim, what do you think has to go right for Cal to win? And what could go wrong for Cal to get an L that day? What are your keys to the game for California?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like with your returning personnel there that the offense is the strong suit of the game, although you might have to have some questions answered with Chandler Rogers coming in if he's going to be the guy. But receiving and running backs, a lot of depth there on your squad, and it seems like the offensive line should be pretty solid too, although we don't know how they'll adjust with Coach Bloesch gone, but I assume with some veterans back, they'll should be good. So really, I think if the defense can keep the North Texas offense down, in the 20-point range, maybe low 20s, I think they'll stand a really good chance. They just have to show a competent offense. Nobody is taking this game for granted. Everybody saw that North Texas had a really solid season last year, could have easily beaten Boise State in the bowl game. We know the conditions are going to be very inhospitable. Cal players aren't used to playing in this kind of weather, although they do have a pretty good Texas contingent and Arizona contingent coming. So those guys have done it, but still, Doing it in D1 is a different story altogether. So, shifting into a pretty positive gear under the Jake Spavital offense and the defense keeping the Mean Green in check, I think would be the key to Cal winning this game. If the offense doesn't move the ball, it's anybody's game in a matchup like this. So, while seeing it in spring ball is one thing, it seems like the offense is going to work. In principle, it should. They've got the personnel for it. But, seeing it happen in fall camp will be another thing with a little bit more live contact, and seeing it happen once the whistle blows and when it really counts, that's the true test. We just don't know yet. It's all theory at this point.
It is the major talk right now in college football, so I got you on. I have to bring it up. Realignment's kind of never ending, it seems like these days. A lot of talk about what's going on with the Pac-12. What do you think? What are your predictions? What happens to the conference? Where is Cal playing conference football in, let's say, 2 years from now? What is your prediction? What's the outcome? Where does the Pac-12 go from here?
There's been so much talk over Twitter, a lot of doom and gloom about the conference. Talk about Arizona leaving, talk about Colorado leaving. Colorado looks a little bit more certain than Arizona, although I don't know how ironclad that is. My thought all the way through was that the conference was waiting for the right numbers to come through, and they weren't going to jump at one too soon where the numbers weren't good enough. There's talk that there'll be a contract announced in the next day or two, presuming that conference presidents agree to it. If the contract value with Apple and another linear service for TV is in the $30 million range, I think that it will hold the conference together and potentially add a couple of programs like San Diego State or maybe SMU or Tulane. I think it might be a shorter term deal, maybe, like a 5-year deal where there'll be some pivoting after that. I really think the Big 12 doesn't intend to, or Big 10 doesn't intend to just have UCLA and USC hanging out on the West Coast. I really think that if the numbers are there for them to increase the conference size without cutting into the shares of the other conference teams, that they'll want to add Washington, Oregon, Cal, and Stanford on the next contract round, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line. But, this could all fall apart. It could be that the conference only gets offered $20 million and that's not enough, and they bleed some teams and it becomes really tough to hold things together. We don't know, but I think my initial answer is where I would expect it to go. Some would consider that too optimistic, but that's my thought at this point anyway.
Perfect. Well, Jim, I appreciate you jumping on. Like I said, we're about a month away, but fall camp starts, I believe, tomorrow for us, and I'm sure y'all's is about to kick off as well, so it's going to be here before we know it. And you going to make the trip down to Texas?
Oh, you kidding? Can't wait for some great barbecue out there. You got any tips for me? We left Lockhart last time we were up in the area, but that's a little south of you.
Yes, Lockhart's is good, but my go-to is Rooster's Roadhouse there in Denton. It's right there on the square. It was always my go-to back when I was at North Texas. So, yeah, that's what I would highly recommend if you're trying to catch some barbecue while you're in Denton for the game.
I'm taking notes, and we're going to catch the Denton football game Friday night too. Awesome.
Well, I'll have to look you up when we get to the game and see how that barbecue was. And like I said, maybe I'll let you borrow my cooler full of water because I feel like we're both going to need it that day.
For sure. Well, at least we'll be in a press box.
Thank you again, Jim, for jumping on. That's Jim McGill, Bear Insider, at BearInsider_com on Twitter. Enjoy that 75-degree weather, man. We'll see you in a month.
All right. Sounds good.